Okay, I'm gonna steer away a little bit from the book. This week is chapter 5, and it's designing for the mobile web. Um, so you can read that in the book and find out more about that if you're wanting to do web design for a living. What I want to start on today is JavaScript. It's always been the most challenging part for students, and I started a little bit earlier last semester in JavaScript, and I thought, well, this semester I'm going to start even a little bit earlier. JavaScript allows you to put code within your web page to make it dynamic, so it's interactive. Now, this I'm at W3 Schools again, and this just talks about my first JavaScript. So click try it yourself. Now we got some of our typical HTML, and you see here we got a button, and type equals button, and it puts a button on there. Now within the tag itself, you can put JavaScript. You see there's an on-click equals document that refers to your entire web page, entire document there. Dot get element by ID. Now this demo you see right here refers to the ID down here in this paragraph tag. Dot inner HTML. This is going to put embed HTML down here. Well, in this case, I'm not really putting any HTML. I'm just putting date. But it'll put down here in this paragraph tag. And the date is a function I call. A function is like I call I got a firehouse. I call the fire department. So I'm calling somebody to do something. A function is a little computer program that you call to do something. In this case, when you call date, it returns a date. And then the beginning parentheses and closing parentheses, that's required for functions, for methods, subroutines. There's different names for them. And if I had parameters that go inside those parentheses. Okay, so if I click this, you see it puts that down there. Now to show you another example. If I create a new paragraph tag and I put an ID on there, the ID is going to be important when we're doing the coding here. And I can put another button. And I'm going to put a line break. Button type equals button on click equals document refers to the web page dot get. This is probably the hardest part right here, getting these uppercase versus lowercase correct. And then I refer to hello. I got something with that wrote down below, I think. Dot inner HTML. Equals hello everybody. Click to say hello. I may not have my quotes right there, but we'll see. I'm just wondering why this is changing from blue to red. Something's wrong. Okay, let's see. Button type equals button on click equals document dot get element by ID. Well, let me put a date here, see if it is the quotes. There it is. If you have a beginning double quote, you have to have an ending double quote. And I forgot that. So you can see that you can put buttons anywhere and have them do multiple things. Besides just calling a function that returns a date, you could have a string. Now, along with that string right there, inside of it, you could put HTML tags. That's what the inner HTML refers to. Now it's a little bit bigger. I'm not sure if that got any bigger. Maybe it did. Let me do a bold. I'll definitely see the difference there. Okay. Now you don't have to do the based on paragraph tags. You could even have a div down here, which represents a division. And since I obviously can't type it correctly without losing the double quotes. Okay, so edit copy and edit paste it there. And let's see, where's the ID? There it is. Third. And if I run that, if I click that, see, it still puts it down there. So it's not limited just to paragraph tags. You also have divs you can do that in. What if I already have HTML? So I have that there. Click that. See how it wipes out the HTML that's there. About here. Wipes it out there. So realize that inner HTML wipes out whatever HTML is embedded between the beginning paragraph and closing paragraph, or beginning div and closing div. But anyway, that's just an example of JavaScript. Again, makes it dynamic, so you can click a button and it does something. Here's an exercise talking about variables. We're going to talk about that here shortly. Let's see. JavaScript is not the same as Java. It follows much of the same language constructs, variables, for loop, while loop, all that, but it is different. Okay, talked about that. JavaScript accepts both double and single quotes, but you have to alternate them. That earlier one I put single quotes on because it was enclosed in double quotes. So if it's enclosed in single quotes, you have to put double quotes inside. If it's enclosed in double quotes, you have to put single quotes inside, and so forth. See, here's an example. Turn on light, does that. Turn off light, does that. Now, this is changing an image. So here, we got on click, and the source is equal to this picture right here. Now this is a turn on light, and here I got an on click, and the source is equal to this. And this is our turn off the light. I could probably save that, but oh well. Go over to Notepad or Notepad++. Okay, put that in there. I'm going to do a file save. Yeah. Okay, I'm in there and pick change.html. Now, if I come over here, boy, that's disappointing. Let's try something else. Copy this one. And paste this in here. I only had one image, so I need two images to make this change. So let's say my first one's going to be the pink png.png. So this here I'm going to change. Doesn't have to be a GIF or GIF, depending upon who you ask. Pink png.png, like that. Now, this is the image it is normally. This changes it. So I want to set this, I think, that pink png.png. And the other one I want is smileyface.png. Right there. Smileyface.png. Smileyface.png. Okay, save that. And this is pick change. So I right click on that and open with Google Chrome. And you see we got the Pink Panther here. Now the turn on the light just changes to Pink Panther. The turn off the light will change it to the smiley face. So that's how you can change images in there. So you can create a different tutorials, learning tutorials. A lot of things you can do with JavaScript. It's very powerful. Now let me go over to here and explain more about it. Now notice over here, I give this an ID. Oops. I call it my image. And when I want to change something about that, I come up here and I have to refer to document.getElementById and then my image. And then .source refers to the source here. So we're replacing that value there with whatever is in here. Now, along the same lines, I never have done it, but you should be able to change the style of it too. So let's see that. Button on click equals document.get element. Not spelled with a ID and my image again. Dot style. Let's see if I can change it. Equals width 200 pixels. And change width. Slash button. It didn't change it, did it? Let's see if I typed something wrong. Maybe you can't change a style like that. I never have tried. I was just curious. Part of going into computer science, if you don't got a curiosity to you, then Computer science may not be your area. Because things are always changing, things are always happening, so you got to be adaptable. I don't see anything wrong, except for I don't have a single quote here. Sure enough, it does work when you code it right. You can see how just one little quote being off will mess it up. Okay. Okay, can change style. We just did that. Can hide HTML elements. Show HTML elements. I'm not going to show those. They're just talking about what is possible. Well, that's just barely touching upon, there's so much possible with JavaScript, it's not even funny. Now the script tag, what you do is you put the script tag somewhere in your web page. And as it's running, it's as your browser is running, it loads in a web page and it goes tag by tag. HTML, body, does H2, does this, so it does that on the screen. It's so fast you don't see it. See this sequential. And then it hits this, does that. That doesn't really do anything. And then comes down here and it runs this. So it does this. And this replaces the inner HTML of demo with this text right here. And then comes down to body, comes down to HTML. You run it like that. This sequential nature is why that still works. Because this went ahead and did all this, even though I didn't do the ending. Now that's if you embed the script in here. There's another place where you can put the script. You're going to put it up here in the header. And here is where we put into a function. And let's see if I can actually remember how to do this. Type equals text / JavaScript function test. Okay, button on click equals test. Like I don't have something right on my button. Nope, I guess I did have it all. I didn't want to make it real fancy or anything. But what this does is when you put this up here, it still starts with the script, it still ends with the script. So those have to be there. Here, you have to tell it when you put it up in the header section as type is equal to quotations around a text / JavaScript. And then you can create something called a function. I talked about a function earlier. And I called it test. And it doesn't do anything except for that same JavaScript statement down here. And so when you have a button, and of course in reality you'd have this actually say something, but when you have a button and on the click, you call the function. So this comes up here and calls this, does this, and then it returns back here to do the next line of JavaScript, but there isn't anymore. And so when you run that, it does that. Is there any questions on that? Okay. We're going to get a lot into functions and so forth, putting it up here. This is the majority where we'll put our code throughout the rest of the semester. We won't be putting it down there in the body. The beauty of this is that you decide when to call it based upon an event, not because it's loading a web page. Functions. Okay. Now it says you can put them in the header or body. I'm not even talking about the body. The header is where you should put them, in my opinion, because then there's no doubt. Where's the JavaScript code at? Now, almost every web page has JavaScript. If it doesn't, it's probably such a boring web page like mine, my mathheals.com. You probably don't want to even look at it. But you want some kind of dynamic items to happen. Now, it could be, this can be done via CSS, or it can be done via JavaScript. See how I put my mouse over the future students and it changes? One way you can do this is have two different images. One image has future white, students orange. One image has future orange and students white. And so when your mouse goes over it, then it changes it to a different image. Couldn't tell you how they did this one. Same down here. See how I put my mouse over them and they change colors? That could be done with changing the image. Just like when I had that button and changed from the Pink Panther to the smiley face, on mouse over is something you can program, and you can do that. Okay, if I view the source here, you're going to find JavaScript. And this looks like that it queries whether you're running a smartphone or not. So looks like it's got iPhone, iPad, I guess tablets too, iPod, Android, BlackBerry. I didn't know BlackBerry's still around. Don't know what Mini is. Windows CE, SCE, don't know. Nokia, MidP, Windows, CE, Palm Pilot, I'm assuming, so forth. Now this goes out here and gets whatever the agent is, and if it's a mobile, which means it's one of these choices, then it's gonna set your location to this. So instead of going to the web page meant for computers and laptops, you go into the web page meant for mobile devices. So that's an example. If you don't have a JavaScript to do this, then the person that goes to it on their smartphone is going to see and you've been to pages like that, I know you have. You go to web pages and they're not designed for mobile applications, and you have to sit there and scroll back and forth, and you try to resize it, make it bigger, and it's just horrible. This is why any decent web page has to have JavaScript, to at least redirect it to your mobile page. You'll see lots of other scripts down here. This is a script, and the source comes from here. So your JavaScript does not even have to be local to the web page. I don't know if I can open this. Let's see. And here's JavaScript written by Google. You may be saying, well, how in the world can they program that? Well, they probably did this on Linux or something like that, where the line breaks were in there. This is all, it looks like it's all one line, maybe, or maybe there's some breaks in here. But they also deliberately programmed it poorly for a reason. While we're probably paying Google for this, this is probably part of our marketing. You notice that they did some of the worst programming ever here. They used variable names like AA, BA, RA, variable B. You never do things like this. Variable C. Horrible programming. They did this, I suspect, because I've looked at this before. I expected, well, they could be they just bad programmers at Google. That could be, but also it could be they just don't want people to understand exactly what they're doing. Because if I could steal their code, maybe I could have a advantage if I'm trying to create a competing service, or competitive service, I should say. But anyway, that's all JavaScript. I have no clue what it's doing, and it would take me forever with those variable names because I would have no clue what they actually stand for. You also notice you goes through here. I'm not seeing much documentation. Maybe zero documentation. I lie. There's one line of documentation up here, and documentation right here, mainly about their copyright, so you don't steal their their stuff, I guess. Okay, and then within here we have a function called gtag, and that gets called somewhere in our web page. And I don't know what this does exactly. Pushes information to Google Tag Manager, I'm guessing. Script after script in here, doing different things. Here's a slider. That could be like something sliding in from the side, I'm guessing. Transitions. Probably not a bad thing. I think our webpage does do that. I thought it changed on this. I could be wrong. I have to pay attention better next time. Let me search for script. I got 64 instances of script. Let me search for beginning script. So they got 18 JavaScript programs throughout here doing different things. Now I suspect, didn't write any of these, so keep that in mind. Shim and respond, IE8 support of HTML5 elements and mediate queries. So I guess if you have Internet Explorer 8, our HTML5 that we have on our web page wasn't working right. So they had to research it and put this in here. And again, they didn't write this. This is done by this individual. And maybe it's just bad coders all the way around. You don't have to use single letters like that, but maybe they do it so nobody will know what they're doing and steal their code. But a lot of this stuff is free. You can go out there and search for free JavaScript libraries, programs, and you'll find tons out there. Specky Boy. Not sure if I want to go to Specky Boy. His database JavaScript libraries. This is where you should go when you are trying to figure out how to do something. Like if I'm trying to figure out how to do something audio-wise. Then come out here, see what's available. If I'm trying to see how to do a game, you come out here. There's game engines and so forth. Lots you can do. User interface. PDF reader in JavaScript. Idea of being a programmer is that you're efficient. It is not efficient to reinvent the wheel. I like to rewrite this universal video embed, or this YouTube and Vimeo player right here. Well, that would take me a long time. I might spend a week doing it, versus coming out here and stealing their code. Somewhere I'm sure they have a somewhere I'm sure they have their JavaScript code. There it is. So they talk about how to do it and everything. So anyway, enough about that. This is what I just showed you. They don't have that type. Maybe you don't need that. I learned JavaScript many years ago, like about 27 years ago. So some of the original stuff you see me use, I'm still stuck in the dark ages when I first was learning it. You had to put type equals text / JavaScript here. But obviously you don't anymore. Okay, so this down here, got the button. Here's our on click again. And this calls my function, which is right up here. And so I click that and this changes that. We're going to see before too long, we're going to be creating web pages where you can add two numbers together. Where you put a number in here, and click the button, it'll add them together for you. And I know, real exciting adding numbers, but it gets more exciting. You can put in the body. I don't really like this, but you can. If you notice, I think that's what Kali does sometimes. So you got this in the body, and then you can call it. It works the same way. You may say, well, if it works the same way, well, why does it matter? Well, if you always put them up in the header section, then if you're wondering where's the script located at, it's up in the header section. It's always up in the header section. So it just makes it simpler if you follow that convention. You can have external JavaScript. Like in this has myscript.js. And let me show this. Copy that. I come over here, file new, paste that in. Now I save this. What do they call it? Not that matters, just has to end with .js. My script. .js. Excuse me. And that's changing demo. Okay, so if I come down here, div id equals demo div. I think it's changed in HTML. Yep, enter HTML. And then up here, script, what am I doing? Header. And closing header. Now here's where we put our script, and normally we close it off, but we put our source equals my script.js, and closing parentheses, and then like this. And I won't put the type in there. We'll see if it works. Okay, so open with Google Chrome. And I didn't call it from anything. Helps to call it from something. Let's see, a button, I guess. Button on click equals, and it's going to call. What's it going to call? My function. So you have to know the name of what to call. And it's going to call my function. No memory. Lowercase, uppercase. Okay, uppercase. Okay, so save that. Refresh that. Click that and does that. The beauty of having external libraries is that I could develop a JavaScript library that does some very unique things. We looked at that web page that had all those libraries. You could download those, put them on your website, and put them externally. You could point it out to their website. Kali does that. I'm not sure if I agree with that practice, but they're doing it for whatever reason. I'm sure they'd give you an equally valid reason why they're doing it. Let's see, Control F, script. Google, I can understand. I agree with that. What's wrong with pointing the script out here to this web page? Well, think about whoever owns this web page. If they decide to no longer have that web page, if they decide to somebody hacks in, does something malicious on theirs. There's a lot of things that could happen. They don't pay their domain name. Oops, I was supposed to check my own domain names. I think they're coming to due today, actually. If I check that later. I think my auto renew covered most of them, but I think there were some of them that I needed to update my credit card. Anyway, I digress. There's a lot of reasons why you wouldn't want to point it to their website. A better way, in my opinion, unless their copyright forbids you from doing this, is to copy this file. Because once I go there, I didn't like something I did. Is that not the one I went to earlier? Well, you see the problem. That JavaScript doesn't even exist anymore. If we had copied this file to our own server, then we wouldn't have that problem. Now, let me find another one. You see these here? This starts with HTTP. That is an absolute referencing. These start with Splash. These are stored on our own server. So these will not disappear no matter what. See, I would have swore I went to that earlier. Maybe I didn't. Maybe it's another one. Here's one going out to some kind of I dot. This one here. I don't know what I simply FI is. But see, instead of pointing it to someplace that might disappear, at this point, you could save this. And you save it as a JavaScript file. Now it's on my local PC, and I could upload this to Cali's website, and instead of going out here, I could point to that. Times you wouldn't want to do that again is when copyright doesn't allow you to do it, or when they're dynamically changing this. Like Google is constantly changing their ad manager. We wouldn't want to do it to their JavaScript file. Just by the nature of the internet, though, you can come out here and you can go look at code. Maybe this was the one, HTTPS. Okay, so see here, I could probably save this. I don't know what that licensing means. I'd have to research it. And then if that website disappears, I'm fine. What's missing here is I spec the S. Because I notice it doesn't have the S where that one below did. Let's see if that's a fair statement. It is a different website. No, it's just gone. Now, it only occurs certain times. If you got less than IE9, so if you're running IE8, IE7, IE6, it's not working for them. So yeah, this line of code doesn't even exist at all. Okay, let me go back to W3 schools. External JavaScript advantages: separates HTML and code. It makes HTML and JavaScript easier to read and maintain. Cached JavaScript files can speed up page loads. You can do multiple ones like you see right here. Notice here it can be referenced to the full URL or the path relative to the current web page. This is where if you have the full URL, you potentially have it disappear. Or if it doesn't have the HTTP, HTTPS on there, it was like this is referring to that means the root of your current website. And then it's under the JS folder and so forth. Okay. Now there's different ways of writing out to the screen. One of them is with inner HTML, and that's where it replaces the HTML inside of like a paragraph tag or a div tag. You can do a document.write. You can do a windows.alert and console.log. Inner HTML we already referred to, so I won't look at that example. Now document.write. I don't use this one a whole lot. But if you put your document.write within your body, then you surround it with script and slash script, and then whatever you do your document write on there will appear on your screen. Now I notice I did 5 plus 6. If I wanted it to be 5 plus 6, then I would put quotes around it like that. Otherwise, it does the math calculation for you. I don't use document.write a whole lot, so I don't know how you put a break in there. Let's try this. Okay, that's how you put a break in there. So yeah, you can put different things in there. Strings, integers, doubles. We're going to talk more about that when we get to variables. Don't worry about it overly. When I put quotes around here, this makes it a string. String is just can be any character, a number, a letter, a plus symbol, any character. If I want to embed other quotations in here, if I put a double quote, it's not going to work right. This is where I was talking earlier where you have to alternate them. If I want quotes inside, since I have two double quotes around the outside, I have to put single quotes inside. And then you'll see the single quotes there. But anyway, that's document.write. Notice the document.write method should only be used for testing. And that's about right. Though I use window alerts a lot. Window alert, I think, is easier for testing. And window.alert kind of does the same thing, except pops up with a box. See how it popped up with a box there saying 11? Sometimes you're trying to figure out what's going on with your code, and you can use that to help you figure it out. So let's see, script /script. Try to get away with putting that type in there. Function testing. Notice when I do a function and I put a beginning curly brace and a closing curly brace, everything inside gets run when you call testing. That's what those braces do. And so I got A is equal 1, B is equal to 3, C is equal to A plus B. And if I do a window.alert, do that on C. Yeah, let me call it down here. Testing. Okay, so I got my button here, click here, run that, says 4. So this allows me, if I'm trying to see, well, what's C equal to? I can just simply do a windows.alert real quick and print the value of C. So again, it's nice for debugging your JavaScript code. Sorry, I had to shut my door. Another class comes in, the main classroom in there, while I'm in my office. I think it's history. Does that make sense on what the Windows alert does? And it'll be the most beneficial one because it's what you can use to see what your values are equal to. So if I want to see what A is equal to, then I can do that. There's A and there's C. Now this console.log, if I run it, doesn't feel like it did anything. But if I go to more tools, I click the 3 dots, click more tools, and go to developer tools. Down here, oops, I clicked it too fast, but down here is a link for console. It's also up here. And do you see how it's printing 11? This is actually pretty nice because it gets really irritating for those windows to keep popping up. If I'm going through a loop that's 100, have to do it 100 times, then that window pops up 100 times. If you just do the console.log, it appears over here. So again, it's a way to query what's happening. Okay, statements. JavaScript isn't the most the strongest programming language, I would say. It has some weaknesses. Part of it is when you have a script here, and I do this var, this declares something called a variable. And a lot of you haven't had programming. Variable is, you can think of it like a memory cell. If I tell you to remember a number, I tell you to remember the number 3. Well, your brain has a memory cell, and if I ask you what the number was that I just told you, you would tell me 3. So you stored that off. The computer has to have a way to store that off, and this is how you can declare a variable. And then these right here, you got x is equal to 5, y is equal to 6, and z is equal to x plus y. Now that's within our script. And then down here, I have another JavaScript. It says document.getElementById demo. That's replacing the demo right here. Or not replacing, but it's referring to that demo there. And it's replacing the HTML of that with the value of z is, and it has quotes around here. This is a string. And then there's a plus. That's concatenation. So it's concatenating the string with the value of z. And then concatenating that with a period at the end. Concat means put together. So it's putting those together. And if I run that, it gives me that. Well, I said it's not as strong as it should be. Because if I get rid of those, it still works. You don't have to actually declare the variables. Other programming languages have more powerful features of this. You can put that here, but it really doesn't do anything. Now, each one of these is called a statement. And if you've used other programming languages, you're used to having to tell it that it's an integer. Integer means a number with no decimals. You have to tell it that it's a double or a float. Those are numbers with decimals. Or a string, which has quotes around it like you see down below. And it can be any letter and so forth. This x equals 5. This is not like algebra. That's not the equal sign. That's the assignment. So this is assignment. It assigns 5 to the variable x. It's kind of like the computer has its own mind, and it set aside x, y, and z. Now, when I say it has its own mind, I'm really simplifying it. When it's setting aside x, y, and z, this would come up. Oh, there it is. Getting smaller than that. But it's referring to a memory location. Might be something like this. And it's setting that aside for x. And then it's setting that aside for y. It's setting that aside for z. Now, it does that all in the background for us. And so we don't have to worry about it. But when we run this x equals 5, it's coming out here, this memory location that it allocated, and it's putting 5 in there. It's not putting it in decimal form, but it's taking the memory location for y, and it's putting a 6 in there. Now this goes out and retrieves the values of x and y. So it comes out here, it goes to say, okay, that's 5, this is 6. It then adds them together, which is 11, and assigns it to the memory location for z, like that. And that's what's happening in the background. Now, remember what I said, this is not algebra. This right here is perfectly acceptable in programming. What this says is you take the old value of x, which in our case here would be 5, retrieves it, then 5 plus 1 is 6, and then it assigns it back to the variable. So it comes up here and replaces that with 6. If I was going to run this line of code again, it would take the value that's in x, which is 6, add 1 to it, 6 plus 1 is 7, and then assign it back to x, which is right here, so put a 7 there. So that's what's happening in the background when you do this. In algebra, this is considered no solution, because if you're solving, you take that x over, and you'd end up with 0 is equal to 1. But again, this is the assignment operator. This is not the equals. JavaScript program is a list of programming statements, so you got lots of statements. They're composed of values, operators, expressions, keywords, and comments. We're going to be taking a look at all of that eventually. Semicolons separate JavaScript statements. In theory. You run that, gives you 11. You get rid of all the semicolons, it still gives you 11. So this is quite a bit different than what you're used to from other programming languages. Again, this is called referred to as a weakly typed language, where you don't have to declare your variables with what type they are, where you can have errors like that, and it still runs just fine. That's the nature of HTML in general anyway, though. Remember that JavaScript library that's missing from Kali's web page? Well, there's it still runs, and there's actually ones that'll go out there and check your page for you. For broken links and so forth, and it's free, so I don't really know why they don't do it, but I expect they got a lot going on. If I come up here to this validation, if I put in Kali, click check, this goes through and tells us all the errors that are in there. I might not recognize that broken or that link that's not there. Now, since I've picked on Kali, let me pick on myself. I got a few problems, don't I? I don't care. I'm not in web design, but I guess fatal errors makes it just stop. Big violates nesting rules. Li not allowed as a child development font. It works for me. But again, if I was in web design, I would want to use these tools to verify my pages. Look for broken links, so forth. We're out of time, so I'll go ahead and stop there. There won't be any programming projects on JavaScript yet. I'll put the test out there out of the one book. But other than that, I'll see you next Friday. Is there any questions or anything? Okay. Well, have a good weekend.